My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm putting this out as a one-shot deal. There may be you may find me repeating myself a few times here. I'm not intending to do that, but I am under a lot of time constraints right now. Somebody asked me if I would discuss very quickly what I found out regarding the funds that were sent to various people this past session, especially from the Texas Family Law Foundation and the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. First off, what I want to do is mention right here, this is Steve Bresnen. Steve Bresnen is the lobbyist. He is the lobbyist for the Texas Family Law, or more accurately, the Texas Anti-Family Law Foundation, from my perspective. And you can see right here that Steve Bresnen, as a lobbyist for the Texas Anti-Family Law Foundation, makes at least $100,000 a year and possibly up to $200,000 a year. And he's also the lobbyist for the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. And if you look at that, he makes a minimum of $200,000 up to a maximum of $300,000 approximately. This is information that is available online. This is information at transparencyusa.org. You can go up to there, type this in, transparencyusa.org /tx/lobbying/lobbyist /Steve-Bresnen-33363, and you should find this exact same information. And this is again the clients that Stephen Bresnen is lobbying for, and he makes a minimum of $1.325 million a year, up to $2.35 million just by lobbying. That's what he does. But before I go into the lobbying activity of Steve Bresnen, I also want to refer to a paper that Amy Bresnen did back in 2010. So in the fall of 2010, she wrote this paper, A Preliminary Assessment of Lobbying Techniques, a case study in the Texas expanding gaming lobby. So here she is. She was it was for partial fulfillment for the requirements for the degree of Masters of Public Administration in the fall of 2010. And the purpose of this was to research. This research is to describe the techniques lobbyists use when advocating for their clients' interest and to give policymakers and public administrators a better understanding of how interest groups represented by lobbyists influence public policy. I think it's very important to notice that she's talking about techniques lobbyists use when advocating for their clients' interests. Now, with the Texas Family Law Foundation, they lobby for the Family Law Division of the Texas Bar Association, something like that. Essentially, what they are lobbying for is what they call family law attorneys, what I call more accurately perhaps divorce attorneys. They want to make sure that the divorce attorneys keep getting their share of the money. They're advocating for the financial interests of divorce attorneys by and large. They may say something else, but I think primarily, from my perspective, that's who they lobby for. And also the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. She talks about her various lobbying techniques, the 4 different lobbying techniques which will be examined, including providing information to legislators. And this is important because I believe that right here, providing information to legislators is what the Texas Anti-Family Lawless Foundation does. They have built up this rapport with legislators, and they tell to that legislators as if they are the experts on policy for families in the state of Texas. Remember, though, they are always advocating for their clients' interests. They are advocating for their clients' interests. The divorce attorneys is who they're advocating for. But they want to provide information to legislators. They want to be a service to them. And the snakes, what they're really doing is they're making sure that their divorce attorneys' interests will be advanced. They do not care about the public as a whole. Their job that they look at, what they're doing, is how do we advocate for the divorce attorneys and other people in that profession. Unfortunately, in our Texas state government, we have chair people, and I've heard Chairman Dutton when he was there, and I believe also Chairman Nieve, but I'm not 100% positive on that. We've had an Associate Deputy Attorney General, Joel Rogers, that sometimes they've said, why don't you talk with the Texas Family Law Foundation for clarity on this policy, or to let them help you with the policy. This is perverse because, once again, you must understand that the Texas Family Law Foundation is advocating for their clients' interests. They are advocating for divorce attorneys. Why are they even having a seat at the table with legislators, with senators, when they have one thing in mind? They want to advocate for their clients' interests. I mean, this is so absurd. It would be like a cigarette company talking to a group on health and telling the Committee on Health and Human Services, how cigarette smoking is good for your health, how cigarette smoking actually has positive benefits, how cigarette smoking extends your life. Nothing ever could go wrong with cigarette smoking. And if I'm not mistaken, back in the 60s, they tried doing just that. Of course, the research was just the opposite. There is really, in my mind, no essential difference between what the divorce attorney lobbyist group is doing and what the tobacco industry lobbyist is doing. They're advocating for their clients, and they will come up with any type of research, any type of study, whatever they need to, so that they keep their clients' interests, the divorce attorneys, front and center. A little bit about Amy Bresnen. She was born in Greenville, Texas in 1981. Talked about where she went to school. She graduated from Texas Christian University in Fort Worth in 2003. I'll tell you one thing, though. She may have graduated from Texas Christian University. I don't think she's a Christian at all. That's going to be my opinion, and I don't think that Steve is a Christian at all. In fact, I would look at these legislators and I say, why are you listening to those who walk in to the ungodly? Because that's the way that I look at them. Steve is a registered lobbyist, an attorney, and former state employee. Now, isn't that also interesting how Steve, who was a former state employee, who knows the ropes on the inside, now becomes a registered lobbyist? And he can lobby for the divorce industry. Anyway, this was her paper. She wrote that, and the Texas Family Law Foundation is mentioned. I believe it's on page 51 in this. But the reason I want to talk about this issue of the lobbying groups is because my understanding is, looking at what Amy Bresnen wrote in 2010, is that Steve Bresnen, who is the lobbyist for both the Texas Family Law Foundation and the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, has split these two organizations up so that one provides policy, which will be amenable to the divorce attorneys and the trial laws attorneys, and that the other one, the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, provides the funding to these candidates. So looking at 2018, this is the record of the giving from the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. And if you go down to the very bottom here, which I'm going to do right now, you will see that in 2018, they gave $1,023,131. So where did all of this money go? If you go back up to the top, you'll see that the number one recipient for 2018 was Victoria Nieve. And by the way, Victoria Nieve is the chair of the JJFI, and that will come up especially when we take a look at 2020. The number two recipient was Julie Johnson. She was one of the founding members of the LGBTQ Caucus, and again, I'll talk about that in just a moment too. But anyway, if you look at who they gave money to, they gave money to 26 Republicans, about $80,000. And if you think about how much money that represents, $80,000 out of $1.023 million is approximately 7.8%. They gave money to 74 Democrats, which was about 943,000. About 92.2% is what they gave. The top 25 people that they gave money to, and I believe those were all Democrats. I'll have to double check here. Yes, the top 25 were all Democrats. They gave them $710,000. So it's very obvious that at the very least that the Texas Trial Lawyers Association is very political as far as their orientation. They disfavor Republicans and they favor the Democratic agenda. Now, if you look at these donations, you'll see that the highest amount that they were given was $12,500, and I believe that was to Charles Guerin, and he was running against Beau French, if I'm not mistaken, and they started a smear campaign against Beau. I think that the Texas Trial Lawyers Association and the Texas Family Law Foundation wanted to keep in a Republican who had basically more or less sold themselves to him, and that's why they gave him some money. But there's a few things that I want to look at right here as well. I did show the top two people were Democrats. Gina Kalani in 2018, they gave her $5,000. Not a whole lot, right? In 2020, they gave, or 2018, they gave Retta Bowers $2,500. They gave Anna Maria Ramos $2,500, and they gave James Talarico $2,500. So between, Talarico, Ramos, and Bowers, and even Kalani, you're only talking about $12,500. So what happened in 2020? Well, first off, there's a couple of things. I want to mention something very quickly here first, because there was some legislation that the Texas Family Law Foundation was able to get Anna Maria Ramos to pull back, to not submit, to take it away from having a vote. And what they said, that they congratulated, they said that they found a new friend in Anna Maria Ramos. They found a new friend. So remember, she got $2,500 in in 2018, but their new friend Anna Maria Ramos, I'm just wondering what she's going to get in 2020. And then James Talarico. Now, they didn't say in their newsletter that James Talarico was a new friend, but trust me, James Talarico, he believes in six sexes of individuals. He's very much an LGBTQ activist. He's somebody that they want to have as a friend. And then Retta Bowers, they said the same thing about Retta Bowers as that they said about Anna Maria Ramos, that that Retta Bowers was a good person, wanted to do some stuff, but they talked to Retta Bowers and they found a new friend in Retta Bowers. They found a new friend in Retta Bowers. Gina Kalani, they didn't say anything about her. They gave her $5,000. But what happened in 2020 is what I want to know. Okay, so if you come over to 2020, what do we have here? You take a look at 2020, and the total that the Texas Trial Lawyers Association gave in 2020 was approximately $2,032,486. And this figure may not be completely 100% accurate because I had to recreate a record. And I'm not going to get the exact figure right now, but that's pretty close to where it was. It's within $500 one way or another. I'm positive. So you look at the top 14 people we have down here. The top 14 people, by the way, they're all Democrats. Down to Harold Dutton. The top 14 people received $1.435, and that's 70% of the total. And what I really also find very interesting is that there are six former or current JJFI, the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues members, which would be Retta Bowers was on the committee last session, as was Gina Kalani. Gina Kalani, by the way, lost her race. James Talarico, you had Anna Maria Ramos, you have Victoria Nieve, who was the current chair, and then you had Harold Dutton. So 6 members of the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee, where the Texas Family Law Foundation spends a lot of time. They got $608,000 just for 6 members, 30% of the total. And there's some other things to look at, and I'll get to this in just a moment. But what I found very interesting, again, I mentioned that the Texas Family Law Foundation found a friend in Retta Bowers. So in 2018, Retta Bowers had a donation of $2,500 given to her. In 2020, their newfound friend Retta Bowers had $197,142 given to her. I don't know what this friendship was all about, but I do know that they found a friend. I'm not saying anything that, Retta Bowers has sold her soul for money. I don't know anything about this. But evidently, the Texas Trial Lawyers Association, because of her friendship with the Texas Family Law Foundation, decided to increase the amount that they were going to give to her campaign. That's the way that I interpret it anyway. Gina Kalani, who only had $5,000. Gina Kalani was on the JJFI. Gina Kalani was also a bit amenable to the Texas Family Law Foundation. Not 100%. She was a little bit fiery, and maybe the Texas Family Law Foundation got to her in the off season. I don't know. But anyway, her donation in 2018 went from $5,000 up to $174,000 in 2020. Now, she's one of the few candidates that the Texas Trial Lawyers Association supported that actually lost. And then we have James Talarico. Now, James Talarico is another interesting character. They didn't say anything about James Talarico becoming a friend, but I'm sure that he did everything that they would love to have him as a friend. The Texas Trial Lawyers Association gave James Talarico $85,517 in 2020. What a friendship, huh? If I mean, how many friends can we have that are going to give us like an additional $80,000 a year just because we're friends? That's a pretty good friendship. Next, we have Anna Maria Ramos. And as we remember, Anna Maria Ramos, she is a friend. They won themselves a friend. They found themselves a new friend, another friend in Anna Maria Ramos. Now, if you look at 2018, she was given $2,500 to her campaign. In 2020, she was given $77,712. That's an increase of approximately $75,000. Pretty amazing, huh? They found a friend in Anna Maria Ramos, and as a result, because the Texas Family Law Foundation found a friend in Anna Maria Ramos in 2018, $2,500, 2020, $77,112. So why am I talking about these numbers? What seems to be obvious to me is that the Texas Family Law Foundation is actually trying to buy committee members. The Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee is one of the most important committees in the state of Texas, and it's one of the areas that you're going to have a lot of litigation. So it is in the best interest of divorce attorneys, and of trial lawyer associations to make sure that you have your people in place in the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee. And once again, Retta Bauer, she didn't make it on the committee this year. Gina Kalani lost, but we do have James Talarico, and James Talarico, I believe, his $85,000 was about 23% of his total campaign contributions. Anna Maria Ramos, their new friend Anna Maria, Victoria Nieve, who in 2018 was, as I saw mentioned right up here, she was the top recipient of funds, $89,599. In 2020, they were able to decrease the amount they gave to her, but it was still a healthy amount. So, in my opinion, Steve Bresnen works hand in hand both with the Texas Family Law Foundation and the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. He's making sure that the Texas Family Law Foundation is considered to be the policy expert, the people to go to. And again, why these chair people are saying to representatives or to other people, why don't you talk with the Texas Family Law Foundation about your bill and they can help you with it. That is very similar to asking a tobacco company to present health bills in front of a Health and Human Services Committee related to tobacco. Can you imagine, a tobacco company going in there and saying, well, you know what? In our studies, tobacco has actually led to an increase of life. Tobacco actually has health benefits. Tobacco makes you sexy. Tobacco makes you strong. Tobacco increases your life. They would be lying to you to say all of these things, just like the Texas Anti-Family Lawless Foundation is lying to these legislators, trying to get them to pass legislation that is good for their business, for the divorce industry, and also for the Texas trial lawyers whom they represent. And once again, Steve Bresnen is the lobbyist for both of those groups. One other thing I want to look at here is the LGBTQ caucus members. And now I went through the LGBTQ caucus members, and this year they have about $1,030,000 given to them, $1,029,000 given to them, which is about 51% of their giving. And I think it's very important that we keep in mind, why would they care about the LGBTQ caucus members? Because the LGBTQ caucus members are very much radical in a large sense. They are advocating for something that is going to get these lawyers, these trial lawyers, additional business, because they're going to be fighting in courts about LGBTQ issues. They're going to be fighting for gay rights and lesbian rights. They're going to have, and as far as the Texas Family Law Foundation goes, there's going to be additional litigation, because what happens if you have gay marriage? You're going to have gay divorce. Then you're going to have gay child custody issues. And then you're going to have gay division of assets. And what's going to happen? There's going to be more money. So this money, this $1 million, is going to be just seed money to them. They're going to make this money back up in a hurry. As the Divorce Corp said, that divorce is a $50 billion a year industry. It's probably a lot more than that right now. But $50 billion, if you can spend $1 million and maybe have a chunk of that coming to you. And I don't know what it is exactly in the state of Texas, but it's a huge amount of money. Now, I mentioned that $1,029,000 here. That number actually may be a little bit on the low side, because it's unclear to me whether Retta Bowers is also a member of the LGBTQ caucus. I believe she is. And if that's the case, the amount of money going to the LGBTQ people would be $1,226,000. And I believe Gina Kalani, even though she lost, and even though I don't believe she was a member of the LGBTQ caucus, I believe she was very amenable to the purpose and the agenda behind it. So if you add in her donations, that brings it up to 1.4 million, or about 69% of the total donations from the Texas Trial Lawyers Association goes to LGBTQ caucus members. Now, in last session, there were just a handful of members. This session, I believe that there's 38 members that are part of the LGBTQ caucus. And as far as I could tell, only 2 of those 38 members were not donated to. So the Texas Trial Lawyers Association has an agenda. And so does the Texas Family Law Foundation, if these two are working hand in hand, as I believe that they are. Why do I say all of this? Because the reality is this: the LGBTQ caucus members, they have an agenda. They are radicals. There are some people who think, well, we need to be nice and polite to the people that are on the committee. The reality is, it does not make a difference how nice and polite you are. It doesn't make a difference how soft-spoken you are. It doesn't make a difference how much you cry and talk about how you miss your children and the stuff. These people are radicals. A lot of them are very radical, and they really don't care. They're lying to you if they say they do. Oh, they might pretend that they care, but they care less about what you're going through than what they do about the cause of the LGBTQ agenda. That is what's going on in your state legislature. That is what's going on in the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee. And when you look at the composition of the Juvenile Justice and Family Issues Committee, we have another problem as well. So, for example, we have Victoria Nieve, who is the chair. She is a divorce attorney. Obviously, there should be a conflict of interest if she uses her public position to vote for something that might help her in her private life. So, for example, if she votes for something that is going to help increase litigation, she's going to profit from that in her private life. Anna Maria Ramos is a divorce attorney. Well, of course, these people call themselves family law attorneys, but she's a divorce attorney. And Anna Maria Ramos knows that if she passes legislation that's going to decrease conflict, it's going to cut into her private income. So her rational choice is to pass legislation that's going to increase divorce, increase litigation, increase conflict. Representative David Cook. Representative David Cook is also he's a Republican versus the other two who are Democrats, but he owns a law firm and he also deals with divorce. I think that he's going to have his interest at heart. And so he's going to be using his public office for private gain. That is my belief. I have not seen that completely, but that's what I think is taking place here. So you have 3 members of the 9-member committee that are divorce attorneys or they own a law firm that deals with divorce. And then you have Representative Jean Wu. And regardless of what people think about Jean Wu is very anti-family. If you look at Texas Values, I believe Jean Wu is like in the bottom 10% every single session that he's there. Do not fake yourself. Do not fool yourself. Jean Wu is not going to vote for things that are good for the family. He is a radical. And he as well, I'm not sure that he's part of the LGBTQ caucus. I don't really know one way or another right offhand, but he is not going to vote for the traditional family. So there's 4 out of the 9 that you have already working against you. Plus, you have James Talarico. James Talarico is a rabid LGBTQ activist. He believes that there are 6 sexes of people. If you go back to last session, he was always talking about the LGBTQ issues. He told me personally that because I testified against the idea of transitioning people, that he apologized to the LGBTQ crowd, said that my testimony in 50 years we'd look back and see this as a dark day. Representative James Talarico is a rabid anti-family, pro-LGBTQ activist. That's what you have. So you have 5 members who are going to be voting against you, period. That's the reality of the composition of the committee. You have 3 members, Representative Jeff Leach, Representative James Frank, and Representative Cody Vasut. And I love Cody Vasut. I think he's tremendous in the questions that he asks and everything. And Jeff Leach also just asked some great questions. James Frank asked some great questions. So you've got 3 of these people that actually care about the family, that care about family structure. And then you also have Valerie Swanson. Now, Valerie Swanson, to me, is a little bit of a mixed bag. I've talked with Valerie in person. I know she's for the repeal of no-fault divorce, but she also appears, from my perspective, to have a little bit of the feminist agenda in her. So when it comes down to equal shared parenting, I do not believe that Valerie Swanson is going to support that. She might get rid of no-fault divorce, but I believe that she's also a bit indoctrinated with the feminist agenda. So here's what you have. The reality is this. You have 9 members on the JJFI, and at least 4 of them, if not 5 of them, are going to be voting against bills that are going to be pro-family, pro what you want. You might have a 6th one as well. So no matter how much you beg, how much you plead, how much you try to present stories, how nice you are, and everything else, you're not going to win them over. When I was testifying down there, and I'm not saying I do a great job or anything, but I was trying to challenge them as far as what they were allowed to do, what they were not allowed to do. And I had somebody who actually criticized me because I was not playing nice, basically, is what it came down to. I don't care how nice you play. With this type of the composition of the committee, you're not going to get good bills passed. Victoria Nieve intentionally, in my opinion, withheld House Bill 803, withheld House Bill 3187, 3188 until the very last week of April. Why was that? So if you look at the Texas Family Law Foundation website and you pull up this, it comes from the last session, the 86th regular session. Here's what they did. This was their strategy. With House Bill 922 by Matthew Krause, we know the legislator who filed this bill asked for a hearing in early March, and had a hearing been granted that early in the session, it could have passed. However, the bill did not get a hearing until May, when it was destined to die due to lack of time. Some of our foundation members testified against the bill at the hearing. We had House Bill 926 by Matthew Krause regarding the waiting period for a divorce on the grounds of insupportability. Had this exact same bill basically in House Bill 3190. And what did the Texas Family Law Foundation do? What happened to the bill? Our efforts to combat the repeal of no-fault divorce were coupled with the efforts to kill this bill. See above. The bill was also heard in May, too late in the process for the bill to become law. And then you also had, last time you had House Bill 2157 by Mace Middleton, the exact bill, House Bill 803, which was heard this time. And what did the Texas Family Law Foundation do? They started talking about different things, and then they said this frank yet thoughtful discussion delayed the bill from being filed for a month. Chairman Dutton did not give the bill a hearing until the last week of April, which was too late for the bill to pass. So if you think that by being nice you're going to get these bills passed, I believe that you're sadly mistaken. Steve Bresnen, Amy Bresnen, Victoria Nieve, whoever the chair is, as long as it's chaired by a radical Democrat who is a member of the LGBTQ caucus, or a radical Democrat who is a divorce attorney, or who has special favors with the or whom the Texas Family Law Foundation has possibly purchased with the amount of money that they have given through the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. If that is actually what's happening, you are not going to win against these people. You have to take a different approach. We had 22 people that were co-sponsors on House Bill 803, and we had, I think there were over 100 people that testified or that were signed up to testify for the bill. Not all of them got to. Some of them had to leave. Over 75 testified for the bill. They did not let it pass. That was intentional. It was designed to try to snooker you, to give you false hope, to have you pleading with them. They do not want this passed. And part of the reason is Steve and Amy Bresnen. Part of the reason are the radicals, which would be Victoria Nieve, Anna Maria Ramos, James Talarico, Jean Wu, and David Cook. Again, he owns a law firm that deals in divorce. I'm not sure where he stands. Valerie Swanson, she can be counted on for some things and not for others. My opinion, she has some feminism in her, and that's what's going to cause her to vote against something like equal shared parenting, because somehow she's going to construe that as being anti-woman. And all we're talking about is a presumption. So anyway, this is my analysis of the contributions that were given both in 2018 and in 2020. If you follow the money, you will often find out what is going on. And I believe that by looking at the money trail in 2020, over $2 million was given. 54,000 was given to Republicans. Two of them were, and 23,000 of that were given to Dan Flynn, I believe it is, and Charles Guerin, and I believe it was because they wanted them to win versus their opponents. The Texas Trial Lawyers Association has an agenda, and they're buying people, and I believe that they're working hand in hand with the Texas Family Law Foundation. Steve and Amy Bresnen are lobbyists for both of these groups. And you have got to come to the realization you must fight them in a different way. That's all I have to say about this. This is my opinion. You can do with it whatever you want to, but that's it. Thanks so much. Bye.